asking powerful questions. So it's about sitting down with them and firstly asking, do they understand their role within the organization? So if they aren't performing at their peak, if they're not being an A player, where do the wheels fall off? How does that impact the rest of the team, the rest of the organization? And also having a really clear understanding of what their goals are within the organization.
Welcome to the Leader's Mindset, where we bring you conversations with leaders who are making an impact in business and our communities. Today, we're joined by Amanda Rosazza. She's the Chief Imagination Officer and Principal Consultant for Imaginate Consulting, and coming to us all the way from Queensland, Australia. Thanks for being here, Amanda.
It's amazing to be here, Jason. Thank you for having me.
It's really a pleasure. So, first things first, what is a Chief Imagination Officer? And how can we all become one?
That is a great question. Look, I wanted to give myself a cool name. Let's just cut to the chase. Also, the Chief Imagination Officer wears all of the hats within the business. And my main job is making sure that we're being creative, we're being imaginative, and we're always being curious. So rule number one in being a Chief Imagination Officer, be curious.
Well, that's fantastic. I know I spent 20 years in our Air Force, and curiosity and creativity are not always encouraged in a big organization or in the corporate world. How do you keep yourself being creative? How do you keep others around you being creative?
Great question. So, and it's difficult when you're running your own business, when you're running your own department, when you're running your own team. So I actually make sure that myself and my team set aside time for being creative. So we'll normally start those sessions with a strange question. Like one of my good friends, Avon, will start his sessions with, where do flies go at night? So it gets people thinking outside of the box and asking themselves questions that they might not normally ask themselves. And we ask people to come up with the craziest, most wildest answers. So I'll put that to you. Where do flies go at night?
Well, that's my question is, what did you guys come up with? Where do they go at night?
They go and hide with the dragons under the stones in the magical playland. Also, in reality, they hide under leaves. That's where they actually go, for those playing at home that were interested.
So the conclusion we can all draw here is that under leaves is where we find dragons.
Correct. That is the correct answer.
Yeah. Sometimes it's good to be an engineer dealing with creative types.
It's true. It's true.
So tell us about the company. Who do you serve and how do you serve them?
Yes. So Imaginate came from, firstly, I was the face of my company. So I was the brand, and it's hard to scale an Amanda. So I needed to come up with a name for our company and the rest of our team. So that's where that came from. Who do we help? We help medium to larger organizations, normally in their fast growth phase, to solve their people challenges. So we use systems, processes, learning and development to help them solve their people challenges. The number one issues that we see are lack of accountability, churn, so people leaving in those first 90 days when they first join the organization, and lack of buy-in and just that wanting to do their best work and being able to do their best work. So we create solutions around that.
Do you find that the churn comes from the lack of accountability, or does it more come from the inability to do their best work?
It's all tied in together. So we firmly believe if we don't onboard and initiate our new starters properly, so if we don't let them know what a win looks like, how to do their best work, and also how to integrate themselves in the DNA of the organization and knowing why they do what they do on a daily basis, that's the number one issue that we see. Also, backing that up, so we might do a great onboarding. They feel like they're part of the team. They're excited to be there. They know what they should be doing. We might let them down in the how piece. So standard operating procedures, our knowledge management, instead of them being able to go and ask a question of a really smart AI knowledge management system, they're having to go and shoulder tap all of these subject matter experts within the organization. Everyone's so busy, they don't have time to do that all of the time. So we build systems that allow them to go and find the answers themselves and complement that with coaching and mentoring from people within the team as well.
That's fantastic, especially in a startup or another really fast-growing company. There's not always time to be instructing people. You know, I know coming from the military, it was, we're going to tell you how to do this once, and we expect you to know it. So
that's it. And that just doesn't, it may land with a small percentage of your team members who'll just pick things up and run with it. Or maybe they're really great at taking notes or keeping a hold of things. But for the vast majority of people, they need reinforcement and they need a few exposures to things for it to really sink in and be sticky.
For sure. So you have described your purpose in life as about making work fun. And I have a feeling this goes back much further than when you went out on your own and started your own company. So where did that mission come from and how are you bringing it to life?
Excellent question. So for me, I was fortunate to work at an organization here in Australia for 11 years where we were able to make work fun. And that's where I learned from my mentors and the leadership team that we could actually have fun at work. And we found ways to make that happen. I then joined a different organization where fun was not allowed and it was a very toxic environment. And I thought to myself, much later down the track, I was really struck by that juxtaposition of, you know, companies that live and breathe their values, their vision, their mission, and they get people excited to be involved versus if you're not here 16 hours a day, killing yourself for the good of the company, then, you know, then you're a loser. Basically was the narrative. So, excuse me, I was fascinated by that. And I'm like, how do we create more of the first one? How do we make work more enjoyable? How do we set people up to win so they can do their best work and they actually love what they do?
I love that. So how did you survive those years in that organization that was kind of toxic and not very fun?
I was there for 3 months and I bailed. I was gone. I didn't stay there. And that was, the writing was on the wall because they had massive churn. They were burning through team members faster than they could hire them. So it, you know, at the time, I think I was 22, 23. So I didn't know any better. I'm like, I can tough it out. I got this. But I exited stage left.
So it sounds like churn is a pretty clear signal if you're in senior leadership at the strategy level that you might need to rethink your hiring and talent strategy.
Absolutely. And there's a narrative, especially here in Australia at the moment, that everyone is just leaving because they want the higher paycheck. And for a percentage of people, that may be true. I'm not sure if that's true in the States as well, Jason. But here, that is certainly the narrative at the moment. That said, when you look deeper, when you go a few layers underneath and you actually start assessing, well, how were these people onboarded? Did we create a great environment for them to be in? Did they understand their position description, why they're doing what they're doing? All of those tiny little pieces, those 1%ers that come together to make a great employee experience, very often we're failing in quite a few areas, not just the paycheck that we give them at the end of the week or the month.
Yeah, we actually have research here in the States on this topic, and people leave for pay. But there are a number that pay is the fifth reason. Pay and compensation is the fifth most common reason that people leave. There are a number of other reasons, but people leave because of a toxic culture 10 times more commonly than they do over pay or compensation or benefits in the States. I don't know how it is in Australia. If you don't like the numbers, your quarrel is not with me. Your quarrel is with the MIT Sloan School of Management. Go read their study and talk to them. But there is, and this is research that has gone on many, many years in this country. But in the current climate, some people are leaving over pay and benefits, but they're 10 times more likely to leave over a toxic culture.
And there you go. And MIT wouldn't lie to us. So, but yes, take it up with them if you have a problem with it.
Yeah. Your quarrel is with MIT, not with me.
Yes, exactly.
So one of the really important things to build culture properly is to onboard people. Why is onboarding so important to workplace culture, and how do we do it the right way?
Yes. Very good question. So onboarding is more than just, here's your desk, here's going to be your buddy for the next month, and here's why we do things. It's about initiating people into our culture, our vision, our mission, how we do things around here. And it's more than that. It's about helping people understand their role to play within that bigger game. So that has to be part of the DNA of your onboarding. It's also about logistics as well. And we also want to make it a fun and memorable experience for them. So when their onboarding is enjoyable, when it's memorable, they're more likely to take it to heart, have an emotional connection. That's one big question we always ask when we're building out an onboarding program. How do we make sure that anyone that's watching this has an emotional connection to what they're viewing so that they remember it? And that's often done through play or any other mechanism we can get them to lean in, so that they'll take that information and retain it as they go on to their 3-month review, their 6-month review, their 12-month review, however it's structured within the organization.
Yeah, in the military, we have this thing called basic training or officer training. And I don't know if anyone will ever say it's fun, but it certainly is memorable, and it certainly creates emotional connections for you, no matter which training program you go through, which service program you go through. And then we have onboarding programs when we get to squadrons and units and that kind of stuff that's not quite as intense. But yeah, I can tell you from personal experience, those emotional connections, those really vivid moments last with you your entire time in an organization. So once we've got people onboarded, how do we keep them invested in the culture, and how do we start building them into our future leaders of the culture?
Yes, good one. So first thing I'll say is something that organizations that are great at culture normally have rituals. So they'll have things that happen daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly in the organization that people look forward to, that they're invested in. It could be an awards night, an end of year celebration. It could be, winner of the week. It just ways that we recognize people's efforts, their contribution, and their results within the organization. That's really, really important. So that's one thing I would say. Make sure that we're having rituals, making sure that we have a culture of feedback as well. So as leaders in the organization, making sure that we're not just giving balanced feedback, asking for feedback as well. So, and that is the biggest contribution we can make as leaders, is asking for feedback. Because if I'm asking for feedback and I'm taking it on board and I'm actioning it, people will be more likely to take on our balanced feedback when we give it to them. So there's a couple of things that we can do to improve that as we move past that onboarding period. You also want to give people, I could talk about this for hours, I'll stop at the next one. You want to give people their own projects that they can work on. So giving them opportunities to, if they see an opportunity where they can improve something in the organization, hey, let them run with it. So I always talk about a business, we have our missions and we have our adventures in a business. So let them, empower them to do their best work on the mission, and also let them go on side quests and adventures as well, and test things, let them go break some stuff so that they, are really allowing them to shine within the organization, maybe outside of what the mission would be considered to be. And you asked about, making sure that we've got a succession plan in place, looking for our future leaders, always be on the lookout for our future leaders within the organization and also externally.
I love the idea of side quests and adventures. This is something I kind of unknowingly did during my time in the Air Force, is people who were on my team would say, well, somebody should do this. This is something we should have. right? And then I would
Right.
say to them, well, you're somebody and I'm not going to do it. So if you want it, why don't you go figure it out and make it happen? And,
Amazing.
sometimes they would and sometimes they wouldn't. And if they wanted it bad enough, they would, and they would do the work to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would rise to that challenge and feel the sense of accomplishment for getting something done simply because they wanted to get it done. And sometimes they wouldn't, and that was okay too. But the important thing is I didn't have to do it.
Exactly. I'm curious, what percentage of the time would they take you up on it and run with it?
Most of the time, I would say probably about 80 to 90% of the time, just out of spite, they would take up the challenge and go do it.
Yeah.
One or two times out of 10, they'd be like, okay, I don't want it that bad. I want you to do it. I don't want to do it. And then 80% of the time, some combination of I'll show you versus I really think this is a good idea. They would go forward with it. And then probably out of 10 times, one or two would follow it through to completion. And then we would have a decision to make of does it work well enough to replace what we're doing now or to add into the mix. And then sometimes I'd have to say, you did a great job here, but it doesn't really fit. It doesn't really fit the need we have, or it's not set up to meet the standards we have. And you can go work on it some more to do that. But you did a great job with this. You explored it. It's great, but I don't think we're going to do it, right?
Perfect. I love it. And it's a great way to delegate and make it think it was their idea. So your idea, run with it, right? Love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like startups. Like one or two fail right away. 6 or so are kind of the Walking Dead. They kind of keep going and going and going until somebody puts a stop to it, and then one or two are really successful.
Exactly. So and that's what you need to expect, team. Just to be very clear, when you have your adventures or your side quests, we've got to have space for them to fail or not pay off just like Jason's described. We just need to be aware of that. They're not all going to land us $1 million contract or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really important on these side quests. The stakes have to be really low. If the stakes weren't low, they wouldn't be a side quest, right?
Exactly. That 100%. Exactly right.
So you don't just come in and tell companies what their culture should be. How do you understand the culture when you arrive, and how do you help shape it into what it needs to be?
So I talk to as many people as possible across the whole gamut of the organization. So I want to speak to the CEO all the way down to the janitorial staff. I want to speak to everyone across the organization and understand how they see the organization. So we want that personal reflection from as many people in the organization as we can. So we'll do that by having chats. We'll do it by doing culture and pulse surveys as well. We'll take any historical data that they've got. We'll take what is written on the wall, if you like. So what is your vision, mission, and your values? And then we'll say to them, okay, so based on the information that we have, this is a snapshot of where you are right now. Can you let us know where you would like to be? They will articulate to us where they'd like to be. Then we normally have to meet them in the middle. We have to say, okay, well, that's fantastic. Also, we've got organizational goals that we need to meet as well. So we might need to adjust the roadmap, if you like, so that they meet more in the middle, because sometimes the organization will have this fantastic vision, mission, and values that they want to shift to, but it's not always in alignment with the organization's goals. So we've got to bring everything together.
I imagine one of the hardest things to do is when a CEO or a C-suite they've gone on the annual retreat and they've come back with, okay, these are our new values and vision and mission, and the posters get printed, they go up on the wall everywhere, and then you've got to come in and say, listen, there's nothing wrong with the culture of your company. You guys are just trying to force it into what's on the posters on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it. And there's a company that I know of in Australia, and they recently went through this process of changing their core values. And one of the things that I noted was they were very broad, which, that in itself is not an issue, but they were just handed down to the team. Like, it was decided on one of these retreats, like you mentioned, like it was decided just by the leadership team, no one within the organization who's doing the do day in, day out, had any input into it. So that's one thing. When you get to a certain size, you need to consider how everyone's feeling about the company. And there might be an amazing idea about a core value about how they're doing things really well on a daily basis that needs to be included. So remember, my leadership teams out there, include your A players, your gold star performers in this process. Don't just go and hide for 3 days and come back with a new regime that everyone has to follow.
Yeah, there's nothing more frustrating than the big bosses coming back and saying, okay, your new value is to be innovative. And then we say back to them, okay, so that means we don't have to follow all these procedures you gave us. Right? No, you still have to do that. Okay, I'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. All right.
Exactly. Yes. So please avoid that.
I do want to get into, you talked about the size of a company does matter. And I do want to understand, how does culture need to be approached differently for different kinds of companies? For example, how is it different working on culture with an early stage startup that might be in their, MVP stage, their pre-seed seed stage, and haven't really hit that fast growth yet, versus a company that's growing really fast versus an established corporation?
100%. So biggest thing that people fail to do, which is probably a great place to start, reflect on where you are right now and what the business needs to survive. So going back to that vision and mission piece, if I'm a startup and I know who I am and who I want to help, and we've just got our grassroots team there, we may not be talking about innovation as a value. It might be knowing the plan, sticking to the plan, executing the plan. Does that make sense, Jason? So being very clear about where you are right now. The startup, it could be in the startup environment, it might be about being agile and flexible. So we will rise to meet any challenge. Think about where you are right now and what the organization needs to win, and the type of people that you need them to be for that organization to succeed. Then as we get bigger and maybe say we're the size of Apple, maybe it's about more of that innovation. How do we get to the point where we're creating wow moments for our clients every time we release a new product, and we've got the CEO standing on stage introducing the new feature of a new iPhone. So think about where you are and building your vision, your mission, and your values to meet you where you are so that you can be successful. Everything anchors off everything else.
I think that's really great. It's really important to be focused in the present and what we're doing today. One of the biggest challenges for startups, though, is they hit a point where, they get to that Series A round. They've got the big investors coming in, the venture capital guys are coming in, and now the venture capital guys have different expectations of the company. Yes. And you really do have to change your attitude and your leadership philosophy as a founder or co-founders, or even the CTO of a company might have to start shifting. And I'm curious, in those early stages, are there something that founders, CTOs, the first few employees of a company, the ones that aren't getting paid right now, is there something they can do to set themselves up for success for when that transition does come along?
Yeah, I think really it's about, okay, here's where we are now. Here's who we need to be right now. If we're going down that VC route, if we want to get funding, who do we need to be so that we're the most attractive standout opportunity for those investors? So there does come to that point. Again, it comes back to what do we need, or what does the business need from us right now? How do we set that business up for success? So how do we find that happy place between why we started the thing in the first place, what the business needs, and how are we attractive to those VC opportunities?
Excellent. I love it. Well, I want to take a break from the serious questions about culture and leadership. I want to play a little bit of a game with you. Are you up for a game?
Anytime, any place. Let's go.
Well, you are looking to put more fun in the workplace, so.
Let's do it.
All right. The name of this game is Rapid Response. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I want you to respond with the first thing that comes to your mind. Doesn't need to be a one-word answer. Elaborate as much or as little as you'd like. That's all fine. We're looking to get to know you a little bit here. But yeah, just the first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready?
Old. I'm ready. Born ready.
All right. Amanda Rosazza, rapid response round. Your time begins now. Podcast recommendation.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I'm going to go completely off topic. We have a podcast here in Australia, and I can't think of the name of it. It is a true crime podcast. So when I'm winding down on a Saturday morning, when I'm driving to go and run my errands, we listen to it. It's called Case File. Check it out if you're a true crime fan. In terms of, I listened to 5 or 6 business ones. Do you think I can think of the name of any of them? I will have to send it through to you so you can put it in the show notes, Jason. But Case File,
that would be fantastic, and you'd be surprised how often that happens on this podcast. I love this podcast, and I don't know what the name of it is, but this is the person who's on the podcast, and so
100%. And it's. I will send you the details, but it's like, if you ask me what someone's phone number is, I couldn't tell you because it's automatically in my phone. It's the same with the podcast. They just automatically come on. I don't need to think about the name because they just happen. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
It's a good one. I can remember exactly 2 phone numbers right now out of my entire life. The house I grew up in Connecticut, and the dorm room I lived in for the first 3 years I was in college in Boston. That's it. Don't ask me to. I barely remember my own phone numbers right now.
There you have it, team. There you have it. It's a real thing.
That's not comedy or an exaggeration. Those are the only 2 phone numbers I remember besides my mobile phone number and my business number. That's it. Don't ask me to remember a phone number.
I'm the same. I know my husband's, my mobile number, and my best friend's house when I was like 7, and probably my home phone number when I was 7. So there you go. It's a thing.
There you have it. A practice you'd like to see more leaders embrace.
Inflow of work feedback. So everyone tells me they're too busy to give their team feedback. So if you are walking the floor, if you're on a call with someone, on a Teams call, look for 30 seconds. Start with once a day to give people feedback in the flow of work, and just tell them 2 things they did really. This is the feedback framework I use all the time. 2 things they did really well, 2 opportunities to improve. So for example, if you saw someone interact with a client, say, hey Jason, I loved the way you walked them to the door at the end, and how you handed your card and invited them to invite a friend to come and visit us in the near future. The 2 biggest opportunities to improve: make sure that you wrap the product before you hand it to the customer, and make sure you show them all the color combinations. So 2 really balanced feedback gives them 2 things to double down on and 2 things to change for next time. That's what I would like to see more of. Feedback in the flow of work literally takes you 30 seconds. Once you start the habit, people are expecting it, and they can just keep improving every day.
Great way to reinforce the culture.
Yes, exactly.
Someone we should all be paying attention to.
Oh golly, that's a big one. I must admit, I live in a bit of a bubble of all things Amanda. Someone we should be paying attention to.
Or, put another way, who's someone you're paying attention to?
Well, okay, let me throw a bit of a weird one at you. So, viewers at home, you may or may not be aware of a filmmaker called Kevin Smith. He's famous for creating, his original film was Clerks, and he made the characters Jay and Silent Bob. Now, Jason, are you familiar with them? If you're not, all is forgiven.
I'm a Gen Xer who went to college in Boston during the 90s. I know Kevin Smith and all of his films.
Amazing. You're a legend, sir. Okay, so I pay attention really closely to Kevin Smith because not only I believe he's a great filmmaker, others may disagree with me. He's also a very savvy businessman. Always prepared to take a risk. Like if he in his gut knows that he should go and do it, he'll go and do it. Like he made Clerks for, I think originally the budget was $10,000 and he put it on 3 credit cards, and he quit film school because he's like, I'm just gonna go make a movie, and he got it done. So I watch him very closely through I'm a filmmaker in my spare time. I love all things filmmaking, and I also look at his world and what he does through a business perspective. So I'm really fascinated with him and how he's made things happen throughout his career. There you go.
Yeah, also quite a prolific podcaster. He's kind of a renaissance man.
100%. So yeah, podcasting, merchandise is another thing that he does really well. So yeah, very
all right.
So.
If you're not familiar with Kevin Smith, I'm looking at you, Gen Zers and Millennials. Go check out Kevin Smith. You've probably seen a Kevin Smith movie.
You probably have. You may not realize it was a Kevin Smith movie. You probably have. In fact, right now in the US, I believe there are screenings of Dogma for the 25th anniversary. And we will be getting, they announced it a couple of days ago, they've secured the rights here in Australia, so I'm going to see it in the cinema. I'm excited.
Outstanding. I don't think I've seen it since I saw it in the theater 25 years ago.
Well, that's it. Kevin Smith lost the rights to it, so that's why, unless you had a copy of it on DVD, you couldn't see it anywhere. It wasn't on a streaming service, but now he's got the rights back just in time for the 25th anniversary. So there you go.
Good for him and good for all of us. All right, don't answer yet. You get a choice on this one. What is either your Get Pumped Up song or your walk-on music?
Oh my goodness. Okay. There's too many options running through my brain. My walk-on music, which I don't normally get to choose, to be fair. If I was having walk-on music today, I would choose The Saints Are Coming by U2 and Green Day. If you have not heard that one, it's a good one. Ooh, I've given a thumbs up. There you go.
That is a first on this podcast to get the visual thumbs up. So, no, but that is indeed a great song. The biggest influence in your life?
Walt Disney, I would say. So, massive Disney fan. I'm sure people may have picked up on that just by the industry I'm in and how we help people. So, for me, the way that Walt Disney built his business, again, I look at these people through the lens of the business they created. If you jump on Google Team and you look up Walt Disney's business map, he has this really incredible document that he drew up where he had mapped out how he was going to leverage everything that he created multiple times. So his idea was, I'll make a film, I'll make a TV series based on that film, I'll make merchandise based on that film, you'll come to my parks and you'll go on rides based on that film, and we'll also have parades based on that film. So the way that he mapped it out and how everything was intertwined, you can see how the company's grown exponentially just from those ideas that he had 60 years ago. So very cool. That he would be my biggest influence from a, we talk about creating magic at work and just the way that he built his business and his gung-ho attitude to getting things done as well.
Well, he certainly understood something about creating magic.
That is true.
What is a book everyone should read?
Okay, I'm going to stay on the Walt Disney theme. There's a book, and don't ask me the author. It's called How to Be Like Walt. So it takes you on a journey of 10 values, all the good ones. I know there's certain stories that circulate about Walt Disney, whether you believe them or not, but all of the good traits about Walt Disney are included in this book. And it's just a fascinating, the gentleman that wrote it takes you on a walk through his life from when he was a young child to his death and beyond. So when his brother carried on his legacy and built Walt Disney World, just the way that they've weaved in the traits of leadership and being an astute salesperson and a business person is really, really well done. And I listen to that one at least once a year. Can I have a second book? Is that okay?
Of course. This is my reading recommendation.
You've probably read this one, Jason. I'm sure you have. So it's Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. You've read that one, I'm sure. Yeah. That's another one that I review every year. It's about negotiation. It's about a gentleman that negotiated his way into being an FBI negotiator, which is amazing. I just love that part of the story. But he teaches you how to be a great negotiator to get a great outcome for yourself and have the other person feeling like they got a great outcome as well. So he'll talk to you about negotiating for someone's life. So, the crazy, wildest thing you could negotiate for, all the way down to getting a better price for your rent or your lease, or getting that first class upgrade on the plane. So it's a really good read. Helps you be a better leader as well, for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of great advice in it. If it works for the FBI hostage negotiators in high stakes environment, it can pretty much work for us in any other negotiation, right?
Exactly. And it helps people, any of you out there that struggle to have those challenging or difficult conversations, and maybe finding that fine line between we talk about, we want to be assertive, not aggressive, not passive aggressive, and not passive. So finding that happy place where we're being assertive. Yeah.
Excellent. The best recreational activity in Queensland?
Oh. That's a great question. There's a few. I'm going to go with an interesting one. Sausage sizzle. Now, if I throw that at you, Jason, do you know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea. This feels like a large festival where we all go and eat sausages.
No. Yes and no. Okay. So the sausage sizzle, it's not just Queensland, it's Australia. There are two places, well, we'll say three, that you can get a choice sausage sizzle. So yes, it's a sausage in bread. It's very basic. It's very Australian. We love it. So we have Bunnings. Number one, Bunnings in Australia, which is the equivalent of Home Depot in America. So that's where you go and get all your supplies to do your do-it-yourself projects. So on a Saturday and on a Sunday morning, out the front of Bunnings, they'll have a charity or a school running a sausage sizzle, and you can get your sausage. Now, because of inflation, there's been a price rise. They used to be like $3. I think they're about $6 now, but you can still get your sausage sizzle. Second place, we have a phenomenon in Australia called the democracy sausage. So the democracy sausage is a sausage sizzle that you have when you go to vote. So you go to a polling place or a polling booth, and they will have, again, it's normally the school that's set up a sausage sizzle, and you can support the school and buy a sausage sizzle. And then just your barbecue at home, you can have a sausage sizzle as well. So that's probably one of my favorites here in Queensland.
I've been to Australia 4 or 5 times, and I have never heard that term before.
We're going to fix that. Next time you're here, Jason, we're getting you a Bunnings sausage sizzle. It's happening.
Done and done, because food is always better from a cart in a parking lot.
Absolutely.
What is your dream vacation spot?
That's easy. That would be hopping all of the Disney parks. So getting a round the world ticket and just going to every Disney park. I'm easy. Well, no, that would be very difficult to plan. Also, it's simple. Let's just hop all the parks. Done.
It sounds like a logistical challenge.
It is. I believe the Disney company has seen people like me coming. I'm pretty sure you can just book it, and that they organize it for you. So, but
You would hope.
I think you would hope. Also, I feel like part of the fun for me would be actually organizing it, because I'm just a Disney nerd. What can I say?
Mm-hmm. A tech trend you're excited about?
Tech trend I am excited about. Now, it would be super cliche to reference some kind of AI, so there has to be something else that I can talk about. Okay, this might not be on trend as in recent. I was talking to one of my colleagues yesterday, so Jason, you might even have, do you have a Stream Deck as part of your setup? Do you have
I actually have my hand on it right now. I'm rotating to the next question.
Outstanding. Right, so now I can get Stream Deck on my phone. So I didn't know this. So I can, instead of buying the piece of hardware, I can have it on my phone, and no matter whose setup that I'm connected to, I just turn on the Stream Deck app and download it on their system, and I'm good to go. I've got all my pre-configured buttons.
That's fantastic. I knew there was a phone app. I didn't know you could do it without a device connected. So that's very cool.
Yes, no, I've not gone that far down my streaming journey yet. I just upgraded my camera, but yeah, I've had my eye on a Stream Deck, and Ian, thank you Ian, told me yesterday you can get it as an app on your phone now. So there you go.
That's fantastic. I'm gonna download that app and see what uses I can have, because I don't take my Stream Deck with me everywhere, but I do things where it would be convenient to have. So
amazing. There you go.
All right, last one. Favorite sports team or player?
Okay, so my favorite sports team, I love ice hockey. I know, weird Australian thing to say. My favorite team is the Mighty Ducks. Again, Disney, sorry, it came up again. Could not tell you who my favorite player is, because I just watch it because I love it, because it's fab. No one is afraid to put their body on the line. It is fabulous, it is violent, it's fast, fantastic. Go Ducks.
Yeah, hockey is great. I grew up with hockey up in New England. We have hockey here now in Las Vegas, which everyone, I mean, it's been 7 years now, I think, but everyone's still really excited about it. The games pretty much always sell out, and we see the Ducks 4 or 5 times a year, I think. So
there you go. I'm going to have to come and visit Vegas so I can see the Ducks.
I think you should.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for playing our game. It's always nice to get to know our guests in a way that when we're talking about leadership and culture and business that we don't always get into. So to get back to it,
yes.
How do you work with the different levels of management to shift culture when it's needed?
So I normally spend the most time with an operations manager or the general manager. That's who I normally end up spending the most time with. I normally recommend, if we're doing a shift in culture, we want to tell the organization, like everybody, obviously, that this is the plan, because transparency, trust, all of that good stuff. Then I'd normally pick a team to pilot it, to champion it. So if there's a team, if they can tell me that there is a team in the organization who are just that, not necessarily more switched on, but more adaptable or more likely to go through change more easily, if that makes sense. I'm not really explaining that overly well, but who would be more open to the change and more likely to champion it. We want them to become our culture champions. And then we would pick a few culture champions within each department as well, so that we can really have someone who's a go-to and to help them understand how they can empower the people around them to make the change, because these changes in culture, they don't happen overnight, to sound really cliche. This takes time. Now, just looping back around to your question, the conversations that we have with the CEO are a little bit different to the conversations we have with, the newly hired sales team member. But ultimately, we want to anchor everything back to their role within the organization, how they can show up for the vision, the mission, and the values, and how they can then be an example for the people around them and how they can empower the people around them. And that conversation's a little bit different depending on who we're talking to. You're 100% correct.
You know, in any change in an organization, there's always one or two departments that resist. Usually it's like accounting or shipping.
Yeah.
They're like, we're not doing that. We have things figured out. We're not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with that resistance when you're brought in to help a company? You talked a little bit about having some champions, but how do you deal with that resistance from kind of more established, more traditional parts of an organization?
Absolutely. So the first thing that I will do that is traditionally done wrong, you're not going to go in there and tell them, well, too bad, this is how we're doing it. That's not going to get buy-in from anybody. So the first thing we want to understand is why they're feeling so resistant. What do they feel like they're losing? When we understand that, so we want to go in and we want to understand why they're feeling the way they're feeling, what the resistance is. And we'll spend some time on that. That's not just a tick and flick exercise. We're going to spend some time with that. And what we want to do, and it'll be slightly different depending on the type of resistance, how do we flip the switch so that if they come along for the journey, that they're actually gaining by coming along on the journey? And we really want to build in, it's not push energy, it's pull. It's come with me, it's follow me energy. So that's what we look to do.
Do you ever find generational differences in the way culture is viewed and accepted in the workplace?
Absolutely, absolutely. So you'll find that, and I will fully admit I'm stereotyping here, and it's not always the same. Our older generations will normally be, well, this is the way we've always done it, and you're coming in, Amanda, with your fluffy rubbish that you know, I'm close to retirement. I don't want to change. I'm good. I'm just going to see out my time here. So in that particular situation, I want to make them right, and I want them to remember that they are our center. They've got all this tribal knowledge that we want them to pass down to the newer people that are coming through the organization. That's normally my end. That's normally how I help them through that transition, positioning them as the expert, as our go-to for tribal knowledge. So that's one example of generations. Younger generations that are coming through, there's a couple of things that are most prevalent. And Jason, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. Their value, the way they value and the way they perceive time is a little bit different. So one of the most common things we see is they're about the outcome, not necessarily being at work on time or leaving at the same time. So the way they view time is a little bit different. And the other thing I'll say is they're very much, everyone wants a high five all the time. So they've come up in a schooling system that is, and rightly or wrongly, that where everyone gets an award for showing up and for participating. So it's a little bit harder to get them to sort of stick their head up and be the high achiever unless it's naturally built into them. I mean, I'm curious to hear your opinions on this too.
Yeah, we saw this in the Air Force about 20 years ago when the first millennials were kind of coming into leadership positions. And there was a lot of, well, I showed up, it just didn't work out. And we had to have a lot of really tough conversations of, you could do that when you were a lieutenant. You're a captain now.
Yeah.
You are responsible for we had to have conversations about outcomes. We had to say, you're responsible for the outcome, good, bad, or indifferent. Mm-hmm. Whether you think that's right or wrong, we're coming to you because we've asked you to find a specific outcome or to choose a specific outcome. And we're not going to get in your way on how you're, barring, like, don't go break the law. Don't, I mean, we're going to be watching you. We're going to make sure you're not going to do something crazy. But yeah, we had to have real conversations about it's not enough to just show up. You have to show up and do things that make an impact, do things that move the ball forward. And that was the conversation we had to have 20 years ago with those first millennials coming in. Now, that was a much different time. That was before smartphones, before Blackberries, when everyone had a computer on your desk and there was no really working outside of the workplace, or very rarely, if somebody had a laptop or something like that. So I'm a big believer in the right kind of organization, that there's 24 hours in a day. We have outcomes we're supposed to achieve or expected to achieve. I don't care how you achieve those outcomes in your 24-hour period, as long as those outcomes get achieved. Now, we're on a leadership podcast. When we're talking about leaders, you do need to spend some of your time developing the future leader, a lot of your time developing the future leaders coming up behind you. So you do need to be present. You do need to be engaged with people. Your job is actually more about engaging with people and developing them than about achieving the outcomes. Their job is to achieve the outcomes. So, but, kind of in general, let's focus on outcomes, and let's figure out how to manage our own time to achieve those outcomes. And then if something's not working, we'll have a conversation.
Beautiful. Exactly. Yeah. So it's just that awareness piece, right? We've got different generations within our organization. So having that awareness, and also awareness around where they are on their journey in their professional career. So how much experience they have, what's their level of confidence, and their level of, what's the other word I'm looking for? Confidence and capability within their professional, like their role, and also within our organization as well. It's important to sort of take into consideration all of those factors when we're leading each member of the team.
Absolutely. We talked a little bit earlier about meaning and purpose, and that's one of the our most important jobs with leaders and with culture, is to help people find meaning in their work. How can we as leaders help our teams find meaning and purpose?
Definitely. So there's a couple of ways that we can do this, and it's asking powerful questions. So it's about sitting down with them and firstly asking, do they understand their role within the organization? So if they aren't performing at their peak, if they're not being an A player, where do the wheels fall off? How does that impact the rest of the team, the rest of the organization? And also having a really clear understanding of what their goals are within the organization. So saying, hey, Jason, if you're here in 5 years, where do you want to be? What do you want to achieve personally? What do you want to achieve professionally? And if you can understand that about each of your team and find that overlap or that middle ground where we've got their personal and professional goals and the organizational goals, and we can marry them up, you can't fail. If you consider them as the person and how they fit in the organization and how we can find that trajectory for both, you're winning every time.
Yeah, one of the things I really like to do is take people, especially if they work kind of in back offices or that kind of thing, take them out to see customers and show them how what you do at your desk, or what you do at home when you're working at home, this is the impact it has on this customer. This is how happy you make them. This is how much easier you make their lives. This is how you make this small business succeed by what you do. And that's why it's important for you to show up every day. And if it's a job where you need to be on time, it's why it's important for you to show up on time every day. And it's important for you to expect the same thing from all your fellow employees.
Absolutely, absolutely. And something that I always recommend when I'm out in the wild, exactly like you're saying, taking it a little bit further, how do we communicate a win that the organizations had? And it's not just the sales team closed the deal and the delivery team nailed it. How did accounts fit in? How did the warehousing team fit into that? How did our technical team fit into that rollout? Because they're sort of those outliers, if you like, the ones that are working behind the scenes, exactly like you say. When we're celebrating our wins, making sure we highlight how everyone showed up to make it possible. And if you've got digital signage or digital billboards, if you've got Teams chats that are set up to celebrate wins, making sure that we're communicating that information.
Excellent. So what cool new technology are you using in your company, and what advice do you have for leaders about technology?
Oh, goodness. I feel like we're not using anything especially groundbreaking right now. We did We did start using, and again, I've forgotten the name because you need me to tell you. We're about to start using this really amazing onboarding piece for our clients, which we're going to share with our clients so they can use it with their clients, and also when they're onboarding new team members. So it actually maps out, even before you join the organization or you come on as a client, it actually maps out what that journey looks like, what you can expect, who you can contact. Here's a video from some of our existing clients or some of our current employees, so that there's this really clear roadmap. And it's just a piece of software that's online. Again, I'll get the information across. But it's just a really beautiful roadmap where people can see exactly what's next, what to expect. They can upload all of their documents, and everything just comes back to this beautiful centralized piece of software, which can be integrated with your learning management system or whatever dashboard that you're currently using. So that's something that we have just come across this week, actually, that we're really excited to be using, because we want to reduce friction as well. I know I talk about making things fun, making them enjoyable. We also want to think about how can I reduce friction as part of that process as well.
It sounds really interesting. Would love to get the info from you on it. Whenever we get talking about technology on this show, I always like to get guests to weigh in on where they stand in the remote work debate. I don't know if this is a debate you're having in Australia. We're having it here in the States. I don't understand why we're having this debate, but what are your thoughts?
Well, okay. So there's two schools of thought. So in Australia, we've got all of these, I'm pointing to the city, by the way, we've got all of these office buildings in the city that could be used as amazing collaborative spaces. Aussies do not want to go back to the office. They're used to not having to commute. They're used to being at home, being able to, just duck to the fridge, grab some lunch, all of those things. That is great. Also, we need to be heading into the office at least a couple of days a week. To answer your question, I support a hybrid model wherever possible. So to give them a little bit of flexibility, we need to be heading into the office so we can collaborate, so we can have our finger on the pulse of what is happening with other departments. Going back to your point that you made just before, Jason, if I don't understand what the sales team's doing, if I don't understand what the technical team's doing, it's really hard for me to understand how my role fits in with the people around me. And when you don't have that cross-pollination, opportunities get missed. And when we're working from home like this, it is, unless you are very intentional about creating collaborative spaces online and getting people into that collaborative space, it's very difficult to be done effectively. So people need to be, whenever they can, coming together in person. What's your take on it, Jason?
I think it comes down to objectives and stakes again, right? What are the stakes if someone is not in the office versus in the office? One of my pet peeves is in this debate, we see, especially in our tech world here in the States, we see a lot of tech leaders talking about, we want these collaborative, cooperative, creative environments. We can't do that when people are working at home. And then they bring everybody in, whether it's a couple days a week or full time, they bring everybody in, and then they just have them sit at their desks and work. They don't actually create a collaborative, creative, cooperative environment. So if that's really your goal, do that, create that.
Yeah, don't just drag people into the office, 100%.
But do your billing folks really need to come in to the office to sit at a desk when they could sit at a desk at home? I don't know every company out there, but it's a question I think you should ask yourself.
Exactly, and I love how you put it beautifully. What are the outcomes? What are the objectives? What are we looking to achieve here? And how do we create the environment to set ourselves up for success and move that needle forward? Nailed it.
Yeah, if I were a CEO and my C-suite team or directors had said, we're going to bring everybody into the office because we're going to be creative and collaborative and cooperative, and I came in and I walked through and I saw everybody just sit at their desk, because I'm a big believer that just because you can see someone sitting at their desk doesn't mean they're actually working.
This is true.
And just because you can't see them at home, it doesn't mean they're not working.
That's right.
You know they're working by the outcomes they get and the objectives they achieve.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're not able to track that effectively, you need to go back to the drawing board on that immediately.
Yeah. So I'm all for it. Create collaborative, creative environments. Just make sure that's what you're really doing when you're doing this and not just using that as an excuse.
100%. So, and maybe then you need to ask yourself, do we need to go to an offsite for the day and actually create a little incubator and get Post-it notes all over the wall? If that's what we actually want to do, if we want to collaborate, innovate, and come up with a new solution for something, maybe we need to create that environment instead of just pushing everyone back into the office.
Yeah, I think it's about the environment you create as leaders.
100%.
So what's coming up for you for the rest of 2025?
We have a couple of big projects underway, which is really, really exciting. So our main focus for the rest of this year will be onboarding. So creating onboarding programs for our clients. We've got a couple of events that we're speaking at, which is really exciting. But just getting in there and creating those amazing world-class cultures, Jason.
I love it. For everyone watching or listening right now, what's the one thing we can start doing today to be more imaginative and creative in our work?
I'm just going to loop us straight back to the beginning of the conversation. Just be more curious. And I know like that sounds like such a throwaway thing to do. How do you be more curious? It comes back to this line, and again, not to sound cliche, when you're interacting with people, let them share their point of view first. This is a great place to start when it comes to being curious. So be curious about their point of view and seek to understand before you seek to be understood. So ask them questions. If they've got a complete strange take, or it seems strange to you on how they're going to approach that next project, ask them why. Get really curious, because you might unpack something that if you had just dismissed it, you will miss. So use that curiosity, ask a few more questions, and seek to understand before you seek to be understood.
I love that, and I think that's a great place to leave it. Where can everyone find you? They can thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. So you can please follow me on LinkedIn. I would love to see you on LinkedIn. Also, you'll find us at We Are Imaginate. So it's the word imagine and the number 8.com.
Awesome. Well, Amanda, I want to thank you for joining us today. I want to thank everyone for watching and listening. If you found this conversation valuable, go ahead and share it, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. We've got a lot more great interviews coming up in the future. If you're on a podcast platform and you could leave us a 5-star review, that'd be wonderful. It helps us grow our audience and get the word out and get these great conversations out, like the one we just had with Amanda, out to more and more people. Like I said, we got lots more amazing leaders coming your way. So go out there, do great things today. Onward and upward.
Thanks, Jason.